I think your wife is texting.
Yeah. Okay, everyone. So we're recording and we're live on YouTube. Just want to say to everyone, welcome. Thank you again for sharing your time with us, for coming out. It's colder night. What expectation do we have from winter? Can you give us a break? We'll start our night. Well, as always, we'll start in prayer. Today's the 12th of December. We're into our third week of Advent. It's the third week is joy. So hopefully this week and everything you do, you find great joy as we prepare for the birth of Christ. Else hopefully reflecting. Well, so again, you join me. It's right there on the board. I'll scroll through it as we start ourselves in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Father, help us remember the birth of Jesus, that we may hear the song of the angels, the gladness of the shepherds, and the worship of the wise men. Love all over the world. Like kindness come with every gift and good desires.
Deliver us from evil
By the blessing which Christ brings.
Teach us.
May the Christmas morning make us happy to be thy children, and the Christmas evening bring us to the bed, forgiving and forgiven. For Jesus' sake, amen. All saints. Acknowledgement.
Out of deep respect for Indigenous peoples in Canada, we acknowledge that all Toronto Catholic District School Board properties are situated upon traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat peoples. We also acknowledge the land covered by Treaty 13 is held by the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and Toronto is subject to the District One Spoon Covenant. We also recognize the contributions and enduring presence of all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people in Ontario and the rest of Canada.
So we're on item 3, roll call and apologies. Before that, I'm just going to give Gary a second.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I understand this is my last meeting here with the CPIC. I've been here for almost 10 years, I would say. And last meeting, I mentioned that regardless of the circumstances, I'd give a chance to other trustees to be here. And Ida, our trustee for Ward 3, is very passionate. The trustee, the lady has been very passionate about, parents, especially in her ward. And lately, we have been working on a joint project. I'll let her talk about it later. Financial literacy, character building, leadership for our youth. So I think she's been more than qualified, and I'm very happy that she's taken up the challenge, and she's already done the right thing. She already distributed all her cards to you to contact her when you need her. Of course, I'll still be here with you guys. I am very much honored to serve CPIC. I was once here along with other trustees. I think Trustee Kevin Morrison and Trustee Domenico was here before. And I think the alternate is Trustee Di Domenico. So I really want to thank you. I see all the new faces here, and sure you'll do our parents and constituents proud. So the last item, so I was telling my colleague here, was the big community engagement. And I know what this means to you regarding community engagement. Probably it was by, I would say intentional, that POPC and CPIC were not mentioned there, but we made sure it's there during the last meeting. And I also put a forward, and thank you for the support and other colleagues. I thought you would be lost, but this has been ongoing for a long time. And this is about the engagement process and what level we should be doing it, right? The lowest is informed. Okay, I'm telling you this, get lost, right? We don't want that. Consult is the next lowest level, and we'll survey you, input. Okay, fine. And then the next level, collaborate, and then there's one is after that consult. There's collaborate, and empower is the highest level. I think we took out one level, but we've never done. I think only once in the history of when I was here have we done more than consult once. So it is up to you now, CPIC, POPC, all parents concerned to engage when the time comes. So I put you in your good hands, the motion we put forward, and that we will do our best, as the AT will be here to lead the charge on those consultations. Overall, you call that engagement, right? So I asked the question, what does engagement mean? Basically, it means from the lowest inform to the highest empower, right? Collaborate and work with the board and the board staff. So you have done a great job over the years. I've seen up and downs, we won't mention what those are, between parent organizations, but I've seen in the last few years, because not only because of the pandemic, but more and more operation and even reaching out to the students as well. So I think you've done a great job, led by your chair and previous chair before him. Joe, you've been here for a long time, and others here as well, Gus, and Ali, and everybody. Ryan's new, but everything's in your good hands. And Manuela, of course, and the new CPIC members. In Ward 8, I will work with Rachel to get a new one to replace the two who have gone. I think you will be doing very well. So my humble thanks to all of you. And I'm not gone. The reason I came tonight is I have nothing in the parent community, and the next few days will be busy. But I want to make sure that I say my proper, not goodbye, but thanks and appreciation for all that you do, and for our parents, guardians, stakeholders. Great thank you and gratitude to all of you.
Thank you, Gary, for that. And like you said, yes, I've been here 9 years, so I've been here just a little less than you have. So I have had the opportunity to work with you over all these years and through all those ups and downs. So again, thank you. It's not goodbye, it's I guess so long, but we know where you are, right? So if we need to come find you, we just come down to the boardroom there.
Just a phone call or email away.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just in case you gang up on either.
Mr. Phil. I'm going to continue now with our roll call. Jen, Ward 1.
Here.
Gabriella, Ward 2.
Here.
We have President Ravi, Ward 5 East. Daniel, Ward 5 West. I'm here. S, Ward 6. Lisa, Ward 7 has sent regrets. Rochelle, Ward 8 East.
Yeah.
Ab from Ward 9 has sent regrets. Brian, Ward 10.
Yep.
James, Ward 11 North. Fazzy, Ward 11 South, she's running late. Text message. Annalisa, Ward Central is running late as well. Alicia from East Secondary is sent regrets. Trustee Ida Preddy is here. Present. Community members, Natalia, Roabs. Report, Director Designate Ryan.
Here.
Engagement Coordinator Manuela.
Here.
Marco from Communications did send regrets as well for this meeting. Okay, so item number 4 is approval of the agenda. There was also an addendum. It was not posted, so I don't have it on the thing, but you do have a copy of it as far as your package. Okay. There's just basically items from the agenda that we carry. Want to take a quick peruse, and then I need someone to move both the agenda and the addendum. Jen? And someone to second? Talia? Is there anyone opposed? Okay, so our agenda and addendum carry. Thank you. Item 5 is declarations of interest. So we did cover this last term, last meeting. We all signed our conflict of interest forms. And again, this is an opportunity at every meeting in case something comes up that's on the agenda, in case something pops up that, new. This is the opportunity just to bring to the council to say, I'm in conflict with this, right? And again, that would mean is when we discuss that item, you would accuse yourself of that conversation. So, of interest, so I hear none. Item 6 are minutes from our inaugural meeting on the 14th. Again, this was a very structured meeting. We did our executive, set our standing committees, membership. We added a community member that evening. Are there any questions with regards to the inaugural minutes? I always ask people, make sure your name is spelled properly. Sometimes that's the biggest typo that we have. Plus I had a bigger part in these, so I'm not the best typist. So just double check. We can make corrections. If there's no questions, can I get someone to move the minutes on the 14th? Okay. Daniel? Anyone opposed minutes? Okay, so hearing none, that carries. So item 7 is the report. Okay, so from last meeting to this meeting, few things, a couple fun things. That's always in communication with both Director Designate and Parent Engagement Coordinator. There's always something to talk about with Brian and Manuela. Also with the executive members, dealing with ongoing things that occur at board and whatnot. I was fortunate enough this year to attend the 43rd annual Cardinals dinner. I was actually there with Trustee Freddie and Tano over there as well. I had been to this function before several years back, but it's always nice to. It was a great night. Food's always good, but listening to the Cardinal speak, and then as he was up there and he had all those politicians around him, he reminded them how wonderful Catholic education is and how much good Catholic education. He had all those powerful politicians who were flanking him. He became, you'd be able to steal the spotlight from any of these people. and tell them, kind of basically at that moment advocate. So it's a wonderful event. It raises about $6 million. Most of the money goes to deal with poverty in our city and to different organizations that can't fundraise, so they're funded by this event. And then they go off and do the good. I was also attended the inaugural board of trustees meeting on the 22nd, and the Cardinal was there again. And he said mass, so it's again another opportunity to listen to the Cardinal. Again, the Cardinal was there with all of our trustees, reminding, pushing the Catholic education, the things that our board strives for. So that was a wonderful night as well. I was in attendance at the OAPC commissioning. So that was a good night where we recognized a lot of para-volunteers, recognized a few principals. We have when our vice chair was a recipient of an award that evening. And again, recognized the OAPC commissioning where Father Mike is actually blesses all these members that evening as well. Yeah, see, these are fun things. Right? I presented at the annual, I present our annual report of student achievement. The annual report is in the package. I'll touch on it in a second. I was at, we had a budget and priority setting subcommittee meeting on the 6th. Again, I monitored our Twitter and responded accordingly. I know I've tweeted some Avent messages lately. Reviewed board agendas and prepared these our minutes for November, and I helped prepare items for the December agenda. One of the things too, like I said, that's in your package is the CPIC annual report. I'm not going to go through it. It's 13 pages. Again, I presented to board last on December the 1st at the student achievement, and answered some questions from our trustees. They did ask about our funding because we do have such a surplus. So what I ask of everyone is just go through and read it. It basically it's basically a synopsis of what we did last year, and you'll get an understanding of things that. Okay. Are there any questions with regards to the chair's report? Nope. You want a motion? Yes. Motion. Okay. Good. Anyone opposed to the chair's report? Okay, seeing none, that carries. We'll move now. I'll turn it over to.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So as of November 30th, actually, we do have some expenses to report, and I sent in the expense report list that day. Sent it over to Joe. It's not on the screen, but I'll just say them out loud. So for the month of November 14th to December 12th, we incurred some expenses. On November 14th, we incurred our printing, which printed our agendas and our bylaws. That was $157.80. And our refreshments for that evening was $227. And then for today, we incurred our printing for $43.20, and there'll also be refreshments coming up as well. So that will be reflected on the next budget list. And please submit your mileage. Below that. Yeah. That's okay.
Other questions with regards to? Again, the items that Gus spoke to, they haven't hit the budget piece, so we won't see them. We'll see them at the next meeting.
That's, you want our mileage every month, or would you rather wait till we?
We
We were gonna do quarterly, but
because I guess we have the virtual, there's a spot where I'm gonna speak to that,
yeah,
so
we have a sheet for that.
we'll go through that. Are there any questions with regards to the financials? I get someone to move financials? James?
For the mileage, right?
I emailed the sheet. I do have a paper base here as well, but I emailed the sheet, so.
Okay, which we have to print up and then fill in and then.
You can do it electronically and then save it and you send it back to us.
We thought about doing it on like a Google Forms.
We were actually,
And then it's a spreadsheet.
we were looking into that. We're just trying to get it going.
You want me to do that? I'm really good at
We
them.
have one. No,
Or do you have one already? Okay. All right.
no problem. But thank you for.
I'm good at,
And I
I'm
can
good
make
at
them look
Google
pretty,
Forms and
and
she
you
makes
care.
them.
I make
Can
them
I
look
get a-
really pretty.
Can I get a seconder over there? Okay, thanks. Thank you, Jen. Yeah, we do have, we have it in the queue. And we're trying to, kind of, because we're coming back to this, actually, this expenditure, we're just kind of this way and then we're not gonna have that many, we're working towards something. Is there anyone opposed to the financials? Okay, hearing none, financials carry.
But we did have one.
Okay, so item 8 is our delegations. We have done this evening. Item 9, unfinished business matters and rising out of minutes. We have done notice of motions. Item 11 is our communication. Receipt. Okay. So we do have, for 11A, we have our playground and square revitalization. I added this to our agenda this evening. I had a conversation actually with a membership with a member with regards to raising funds, playgrounds. We had a conversation about it. And this is still open. The deadline to this is December 23rd. So I thought we put it on our agenda. It's out there again, another opportunity for both CPIC, CSPCs to see it. You know, it's obviously on the front page of the board as well. Again, this is the schoolyard revitalization fund is something that's in its 3rd year. And for those CSPCs who have taken advantage of it, it's something, it's nice. I'm sure the trustees can speak to this as well for the schools that have used it and been able to upgrade or build their yards. So for any members, if you're clicking on the link, it'll take you to.
I have a question.
And it'll take you here and it'll take you to the whole application.
It says, please reach out to your school principal to apply and confirm school eligibility. So what is school eligibility?
So if you go to the actual form right here, it'll give you something, under application process, selection process, or under standard guidelines and operating procedure, it'll actually give you a breakdown as to what they're looking for within the application. So that's something that CSPCs and principals would sit down to and collaborate and make sure you hit all the points that they're looking for. Okay? So it's all under it's about a 30 to 40 page document, so I'm not going to have a chance to review it.
I just have a follow-up to that. So is this something that gets done annually?
So this is the 3rd year that it's been approved. It was approved as a one-time item. I want to say 4 years ago. I believe the year before the pandemic, it was done because of trustees had reserves, so they created this one-time thing. And I guess it went so well that the following year, or not the following year, 2 years after, when it came to budget reviews, the board of trustees made it a permanent item. So it's now a permanent item, right? $1.2 million is put aside on an annual basis. So it's $100,000 per ward, and it's allocated in this fashion, basically through an application form that's submitted by your principal in consultation with the CSPC.
So are we finding that it's typically the same schools that are applying, or is it a lot of
I-
schools that are applying, or only the ones that have the time to, like, do we know anything about it?
So I can't give you any specifics on that, right? The only thing that we're bringing tonight is is almost a reminder. I don't know if trustees want to speak to that.
I don't, sorry.
I can speak to it, but I'm very limited in my capacity because I'm only aware with Humber River Black Creek, but my colleague Gary, trustee Tenawan, sorry, is here and he could speak to his ward as well. I've spoken to all of my schools and I'm not sure if you know, but Humber River Black Creek has a lot of high priority schools. What I do is I don't allocate $100,000 to one school. We break it up so that everybody gets something. So usually it's one big playground per school. And then another school might ask for 15,000 for basketball, nets and, soccer, nets, sorry. Or line painting, which is also another item that we could discuss at a later time. So for Humber River Black Creek, we do see that some schools apply more than others every year. So I have some schools that apply every year for 15,000, 10,000, 8,000. But there is an understanding between all of my parent councils and my principals that if you were allocated a brand new playground, you could apply, but chances are that it may go to another school that didn't receive any. So that's how it's been working in Humber River Black Creek, and it's been very successful. I do want to mention one thing though, because trustee Tenawan did bring this up. This year we allocated another extra $300,000, which is going to be split evenly between 12 wards. So the total amount is not 1.2, it's 1.5. Okay. And then if you want to ask trustee Tenawan about what happens in his ward.
Okay, thank you. So the 300,000 was initially designed, if you're listening to the board meeting, to go into a sort of number of students. And that didn't go well because I know I would benefit from it, but other wards which may have less students would say, well, you're not considering the socioeconomic factor, but you're not looking now at the number of students. So at the end of the day, all we could agree on was, divided equally. So you have now 100, what would that be? 125, right? 1,000 per ward. That's equally divided. Now, in terms of the spread of money that you are asking, so it is an understanding that, let's say, Cardinal J from CPIC Ward 8 already received 2 years ago. Now, whether it was built or not, is another point. They already got 50,000. Right? 50,000 is based on the old reserves was half. So if you've got that, then other schools give the other school a chance to give the full. Sometimes it's 10,000, and that's not enough. You need to revamp the whole, raise down the whole program, build a new structure. So it's more like it's my turn, give it to the other ones. So that's understanding. In the last round, in our, because all the trustees sit on a committee, we don't decide. We jointly decide with members of the senior staff, and there's a member that's not from any of the schools that are buying. So last year was from St. Brendan because they did not get any. So one of the parent council officers sat down, then they would not be in conflict because if they're at play, then they would say, well, yeah, I give it to my school. So we come to an understanding that some of them would be given and some would not. Now, those that did not get any, here's the reason. You ask for a full 60,000 playground, and if we give you half, what would that would mean? Nothing, right? It's an all or nothing for them. So some are like extra ones that they're asking for, like 50th anniversary, that's clearly out of bounds, although it's tied to the playground. So no. So those are the decisions that come. So if you want to preempt, you should look for your community rep from your ward and say, this is my suggestion. So everything through that representative that the trustee normally appoints, is that correct?
Well, yeah, the first year it was a CPIC member, and then next year it became members of the board, as a parent from the board that is from a school that did not apply.
My question came from the wondering if all the schools that could be applying are applying, especially when you pointed to that it's a long process, because in my understanding and
No, I
very.
said the document is a long.
Oh, okay, just because I could imagine from what I'm seeing and what I've known is that the schools that have parents that are typically working 2 jobs and, you know, they're already strapped, they don't often have as much time and resource to put towards additional things. So I'm wondering if there's a way to support them if that's the case.
So I can only tell you what we did in Humber River Black Creek. So Mr. Fiorante and I, we held a CSPC community engagement piece where we invited every single CSPC. It wasn't the chairs, I think it was the entire CSPC. Whoever wanted to
March of
come
20
was
March
open. We did it at a local high
2020.
school. It was a huge success. And that was year 1 when we first implemented it. And it was one of the 3 items that we were speaking about. And that's how we were able to engage our parents in our local schools. It was a fantastic event of just information sharing. And one of the big pieces was the playground renewal. And of course, as soon as parents heard about it, they were super excited and we got a huge amount of buy-in. Not everybody decided to apply for it the first year. Some of them took it back and applied the second year instead. Some of them are applying actually this year because they wanted to give the opportunity to other schools to apply before they did. So that's how I was able to communicate it to my local school parent councils. I also mention it in my newsletters. But your question to how are we going to get it board wide? It's a great question. It's up for discussion, really.
Thank you.
So let's say, for example, because our school got the award, but the thing is, they're waiting 3 years now for some parts to come in, so it's not built yet. Anyways, setting that aside, and we still wanted to apply because we already got it. So you're saying that, let's say the other schools don't apply for whatever reason they need because they don't need it. That means we should not apply again just because we got it? No, you could still apply again.
No,
Okay.
there's no if you can or can't. do it. Again, the opportunity, again, it started as a one-time thing and trustees saw that this will help, right? And they mentioned now there's a different pot of money for line paint, right? So as trustees are moving or progressing the board, between board staff and trustees are coming up with different ways to fund different things at the school, trying to kind of simplify and whatnot. Now, again, I can tell you with this application process, because the staff person who deals with it, when she's reviewing it, she's grouping it. She knows if she has to put so many basketball nets across the board, then she has leverage, right? Because now she has a volume. She's got to put one basketball net somewhere, it'll cost her so much. If she's going to call that company, they're going to put one in every school. Now she has more leverage on her end. So every school I would say every school can put an application. Don't worry, I mean, trustees are giving you guys some behind the scenes. I know some of us around the table have been part of those conversations where they're trying to break up the money. But the form is a pretty easy to fill out form. I think pretty sure all the principals have been walked through this during their when the principal meetings. And I would, like I said, if you're a school and you want to apply, right? Like if you don't, who said, was it someone I don't shoot to miss? If you don't apply, you're obviously not going to get it, right? So if you apply, the worst case scenario is you're not going to get it, but you might get it. Yes, John.
Is this a follow-up? Go ahead first.
So let's say, does the principal also have to authorize it to apply? Like,
The
principal has to
application is submitted, yes, via your
But if
principal.
the principal says no, not to apply, then.
I'm going to, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna speak, we can't speak to every principal on the board, but I'm pretty sure we're not gonna find a principal out there that's gonna say
Okay.
no.
Okay, yeah, because I was just saying, because we can still present it and then the principal can say yay or nay, and then we go, the final decision is the principal, correct?
The principal is the one completing the form and pushing the button, yes.
Okay, got it. Okay,
Because they're the
But it's a
principal.
collaboration,
It's a
means
yes.
CSBC and principal come together and they talk and figure out what they want for the school, and then they come to an agreement, and then he just puts the form
Push the
through.
button.
okay, got it. Okay, that makes clear.
Part of the document, as a CSBC, you can write a letter of support,
Yeah.
right, as part of this application. So as a CSBC chair, right, co-chair, whatever member you sit around the table, you can write an additional letter that coincides with this piece. So there is a piece even for the CSBCs in this application. Question?
More of a request. Can I make a request that we send out another email to principals, maybe reminding them that the deadline's coming up and to reach out to their CSBC chairs? Because I would hate, it gets Christmas time, so everyone's kind of like, oh, buying presents and they're, so it may not, their head may not be in it.
I was gonna say one thing, at my school, St. Bonaventure, we have a playground committee. And they've been in existence for about 3 years, so they meet all the time to see how they can apply for a playground and for money. So they got some last year. They're gonna try again this year. But again, it might not be successful, but they're still gonna try.
So has there been wards that have gotten it besides our ward? Like every ward
Not
has,
ours.
oh, you just got
Yeah.
yours, but some wards haven't even gotten it.
Or what do you mean some wards haven't even got it?
Like how there's different wards, like, are there wards that haven't even gotten it?
Funding is divided evenly amongst the wards.
Okay, but what I'm saying,
Every ward is receiving a portion of this funding. It's just determining which schools within that ward get allocated money.
right,
Right, so every ward, every year will be allocated money.
okay.
I just want to let you know that my school, the playground committee has existed for 10 years. So this project has been going on for 10 years and we're just wrapping it up now. But the past 2 or 3 years, it's just accelerated. So 3 years is, I know it sounds long, but it's a process,
Okay,
right? But it's getting faster, it's getting better.
okay. But COVID also didn't help, right? So,
Well, it kind of did. I don't know, like a lot of
Supply-wise.
construction, yeah, a lot of talk was happening during COVID. Like our windows got retrofitted.
I just listening to the conversation here. It's not only getting the funding, right? As you know, you said 3 years, right? So if there's any schools that got the funding, but no shovels on the ground, then it's time to ask your principal to contact the trustees or the head for the renewal department, Superintendent Slomislik. But sometimes, it get falls through the crack and say, well, we got the funding, but there's no structure. That's one, that's not part of the playground process, but it's after the post award.
Is the superintendent for that one?
Superintendent Slomislik.
okay,
You could copy her and then copy the trustee.
okay,
And say, well, you have to consider pandemic and all that.
yeah,
It can't be like forever. that we
yeah,
don't have the playground.
Yeah, push it. Stay on top of it because our community raised $20,000 10 years ago. And that could have bought 4 trees at the time. And now it only buys like 2 trees.
And there are certain communities like yours. that
Yeah,
there's
like-
there's one person there, it's like an NBA player or what? How much do you need? 50. Okay, here's 300,000. So you don't need the funding technically, but there are certain communities that have rich parents, right? That are also very talented.
Through the chair, can I just speak on that? for a
Yeah, go ahead.
second? I think just in terms of process, in terms of engaging staff, you should start with your principal and allow them to begin that conversation rather than parents reaching out to planning staff directly. And the next step there would be through your area superintendent, which happens to me. So we can work in that way. I've already said Superintendent Milka an email to remind principals to engage their CSPCs as the date is coming up rapidly. So just in terms of process, we want to ensure that the direct connection is firstly with the principal.
We'll talk about it in the CSBC meeting.
Sure. You're encouraged to. In fact, the
Versus an
process. Yeah. Yeah, the process is that this is a principal held initiative with consultation with a committee, right? So you'll find that in some instance, there's that teacher, right, that will take the lead on it and write the report. I've had the pleasure in being a field superintendent on sitting on these, and the amazing work that's done with these committees around what they want to achieve. To some extent, I mean, somewhat coverings that cover the whole yard and an opening dome, and but I would say aim for the sky. And then, you know, the process is really good because you sit with the committees, sit with our planning people who have a lot of understanding about different funding sources for things. So this isn't the only funding source. This is one funding source that parents and committee members can work on, but there are other areas that our planning people know need revitalization on. So in yours, it might be a specific case that we can look into where it's at with, I mean, COVID held up a lot, but where it is with Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a great point, by Superintendent Peterson, because sometimes we forget the principal is the contact person. In this case, it would be it's a blessed thing that.
Yeah, I'll let you start it.
The area.
Because it might come from a side, if it's from me, but just reach out to Principal Fitzpatrick and see where that goes. And then, because you've already had one that's gone through, but
Yeah.
you're really asking, where are we in the process?
Yeah.
And yeah, okay.
And then just in case we need to apply again, I just want to know if that's an option, or are we completely shot out of the game just
And
because we got it?
he'll connect with planning, and then they have spreadsheets on every school. Like it's amazing to know what they know about all of our schools.
Yeah.
And then, you know, they have a whole staff that knows, you know, this particular school needs new paving, and they might be wrapped into that job and where they're all timed to be.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna get someone to move the report, Jen, the communication. Okay, anyone against the received communication? That goes through. So again, we always,
If I could just quickly ask, when is the deadline for that, please?
December 23rd.
Thank you.
Right.
Friday. Thank you.
Okay, so going on to item 12, which is our program for the evening. Our 12A is our parent reaching out grant funds. So something that we usually discuss every year at this point. Now, I know over the past 3 years, our program has taken on different shapes and forms, and through applications and through reimbursement processes that Manuela has come up, and we consulted on disbursement and how to give it away and what schools to do. And last year we came up with some really great resource pieces, and both a list of vetted speakers and both a list of vetted resources from numerous departments in our board. Manuela kind of compiled that, and it's been emailed, shared on SharePoint. And we were waiting for program this year, and they made another change, right? Because they want to keep us on our toes. So just say thank you to Jen, because she attended the ministry meeting as well as Manuela, where they discussed these changes. So I'm just going to go high level over the document that we included. Again, this is, if everyone, give it a read, it basically gives you a breakdown of how pro-grant funding works, right? There are some acronyms in there. So we're going to have an acronym Bible from OAPSI soon to help us all deal with all these little things. In essence, what they've done this year is they've taken the funding from PF and they put it into GSN. Is that the terminology? So it really doesn't mean a lot to parents when you're going from PPF to GSN, right? GSN stands for grant
for student needs.
Grant for student needs. And PPF stands for? Lisa?
Sorry.
PPF?
PPF is parent, papa,
Reaching out grants.
it's parent, hold on, I'll find it.
Very part funding, okay.
Parent part, yeah, it's like the French thing.
So in any case, so the government has moved, they're basically allocating funding under different categories. So here on the first piece, it's at the bottom of page 1, it gives you a breakdown. See, it shows our breakdown of how we get funded. So as a PIC, we get $5,000 plus 17 cents per average daily enrollment of pupils, right? So depending on our enrollment, the PICs across the board get more money. So obviously smaller boards get less money than boards. School council component, that's that $500 that PIC fund that we keep hearing from. And you'll see it a little further in our agenda as well. So that's the piece that every school every year gets $500. It's meant for parent engagement there, right? Sure.
Manuela, we were on that same meeting together. The reporting now, that's changed too, right?
Is it now or later?
Uh,
When would you like us to speak to the pro?
I was going to have 2 more.
We're gonna deal with it
I was gonna
after?
say,
Okay.
and then you can go to your thing. I was just gonna mention the pro component and then you can have it. So now the pro component this year, and again, for those of you who've been around the table the last few years, you've seen different structures. So the pro component this year is $1,500 lump sum plus $500 per school. So now there's no more application process. Every school is being allocated these pro grant funds for parent scoring. And at this point, now I will turn it.
Okay. So the ministry this year and going forward decided that instead of having councils and schools go through application, which was a very arduous process that we presented yearly, they are going to provide funds to the board to divvy out through all schools similar to the PIC. So in this transition year, it's another $500, which we discussed with Allison from the ministry, because it can be confusing because councils are going to say is it PIC or is it pro? But the ministry felt that in this year of transition, instead of making it 1,000 for parent grants, they wanted to separate the PIC and the pro so that parents were reassured that pro grants did not disappear. So in terms of process, luckily, even though we're second largest board and very limited staffing, we're very proud of ourselves in our collaboration here that we have an established process for PIC. And we're going to use the same for pro. And it's a simple process by which we already have the literature to go out tomorrow after this meeting. And all councils need to complete is a template. So they just need to say school, the activity that's parent related. And this is a biggie because it has to go through a kind of a quasi in-house auditing to ensure that these funds are spent on parent learning and parent initiatives versus student materials and student learning. And then the schools get reimbursed the funds. Again, the process is the same. It's a check requisition filled by the principal, directing the funds to the entity that upfronted the funds, whether it was a school or CSPC. The template is very simple. We have a new fill in template, and it just requires the principal and the chair's signature. The decision for tonight for this council is that in addition to the $500 per school, they provided each board with $1,500 extra, not per school, but just extra. So we do have a St. Anne, and staff's recommendation is that the $1,500 be allocated to St. Anne. And because traditionally they have not accumulated any PIC funds. And on average, each school, because of COVID, did accumulate anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000. The ministry, that was one request from our board at the ministry meeting, was that we requested literature to present to our councils that is a bit more definite than the one we use. So we say this year's funds for this year's children. But because most schools are still sitting on accumulated funds, we are going to promote school councils using these funds and depleting them so that they don't end up with a carryover. And the ministry is now looking at maybe next year amalgamating those two and just providing each school with $1,000, which would make sense. That's all I have to say on our behalf.
Any questions?
The end process. Now, from what I understood in the meeting, we don't have to go through a report at the end.
It's
It's
just
up
the
to,
template.
yeah, just the template at the beginning, and then the board has to
There's no
send.
beginning, there's just a template. So I will send out the template with this parent engagement matter just on Pro.
Yeah.
Most of the process literature is similar to PIC because it's parent engagement and parent learning. So the only difference being on the template, it says $500 max. So if the schools want to use it in conjunction with PIC funds, that's fine. But there's no application and there's no end report. It's just that template that chair, principal have to fill in. Only the principal fills in the check requisition and invoices through me via email. You keep copies, the funds get reimbursed. Simple. We hope.
So sorry, if you don't use it, you lose it? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's not a question, you don't use it, you lose it. The ministry, I mean, Jen was on in our meeting. The whole point is not to accumulate funds. So just like we did with PIC funds, there is an accumulation that was never meant to be accumulated because the one general rule that we have for all ministry funds is this year's funds for this year's children. So it's not that you lose it, it will be accumulated. But again, we're waiting for that literature from the ministry in terms of pro grants. So we're going to lose that language of applying. There's no application for either PIC or pro. It's just these funds that are placed or housed for each school.
So basically it gets cashed out from some,
It gets carried over if it's not used by the schools. But even pre-COVID around this table, we had discussions on how to encourage councils to use the funds, not to accumulate.
let's say we get the balance as of right now, let's say it's $2,000.
You use the $2,000
So
if you can.
and do we have a deadline to use that $2,000?
It's this year's, so, most schools send reimbursement requests in June for these funds, June, July. And then the cycle goes with the business service cycle.
And what's that cycle date? Is it January to December?
No, it's actually October they start in October, but basically the rule we have with schools is September to June. That's the time you have to use it. And you can't apply for reimbursement for something that happened in the past this year, for example.
So that means we have till next September,
It means you have until probably July.
till July to use those funds which are in that balance. Okay, so all I have to do is just contact the principal, figure out what that balance is.
No, like the way this operates is that council, principals and chairs always get this information from business service. There's no need to contact the principal because the principal and the chair, and then the chair presents it at council.
Okay.
And the information there. With the pro, we have not sent any information out, so it will be coming from our department. And again, the information will go to all principals and all CSPC chairs, trustees.
So the chair has to come up with ideas on how to use it. And
No,
present it.
there's, what I'm going to suggest is this, tomorrow, it's a 2-page, basically this process.
Okay, because our meeting's coming up next week, so I just wanted
It
to.
will be sent out tomorrow.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
So
Okay.
Just to show what Rochelle's talking, it's Rochelle, right?
You're gonna give out the big bounces. We're gonna get to that. in the
No,
next-
I know,
the
but
next-
just
the
as-
next agenda item.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'll save my,
Thank you.
come right back.
Brian?
So I see here a list of possible examples for programs. Is there a list of vetted providers that the board supplies to?
So we came up with, from our departments, a list, not a vetted, we don't use that word because the idea of these funds is for really local planning. So it works in one school, is not to be copied in multiple schools. But we did at a request of this table, and schools came up with a list, not a vetted list, because even with speakers for mental health, for example, there's a tool that each school needs to use. That's why it's so important that the planning is local with the principal, with staff, with CSPC to say, what are our needs for parent engagement, parent learning? And then we start there. But we do have a book list, we have a speakers list. And we have examples of projects that our schools did last year. This is all on the website. It will also be included. This is really meant to target the local needs. We all know that speakers now start at 1,500. And again, that's up to the local school to decide, is bringing in a speaker the best tool, or do we reach out to the community? Because each community has a wealth of speakers, so they don't have to be from ours. Having said that, the principal still is the final one that vets that speaker. Because they have to ensure that the speaker is going to speak and present within our policies and values.
Okay, so now, so we heard from, in addition to the 500 we're all getting, there's a 1,500 lump sum that staff wants is recommending that goes to St. Anne's. Now, just to give everyone around the table, because not everyone's been around the table. Last year, we did do the same thing. Again, St. Anne's is our virtual school. It has always, it's slowly come down in numbers, but it's still there. We still have kids that attend virtual school. And again, they don't, I'm not sure if it's because they're not recognized as a brick and mortar school, that they're not within the realms of allocation. It's, I guess, difficult maybe for virtual fundraising and whatnot. So we're looking to motion for, so I'm gonna, so motioning receipt of the report and that the 1,500 be allocated to St. Anne's. And who motioned it?
I motioned it and he seconded.
Oh, okay. Is there anyone opposed to the report and or the allocation of funds? Okay, hearing none, that carries. 12B is our metrics on Catholic school parent council policy. So this was at board, this was at the student achievements board meeting on December 1st. So again, we bring it to council because it's something that CPIC can look at. I'm not sure, does staff want to do a high level of the metrics? Luella?
Sorry, guys, I was just.
High level of the report?
So this report was presented at Student Achievement, the last Student Achievement meeting, and it highlights where the activities that were presented through the survey on CSBC's metrics from last school year. We were happy to report that all school councils last year had a CSBC council, as well as we went through the different appendices, which I believe are here, Joe.
All the appendices are here, yes.
And one of the questions that I know we're having conversation around, which is I think Appendix C, was all the disclosed information around PIC funds. I will probably just take any questions from here since the report's pretty self-explanatory.
Appendix D is the PIC balance. Appendix A is the result of the financial and CPC activity report.
I'll just say for PIC funds, one of our priorities from a staff level and working with principals is to get spending some of this money. A lot of them have carryover for, well, divide the number by 500 and we need to start.
If we scroll down to the bottom, there's a balance.
Yeah, it's over.
It's 400,000.
It's 400,000. So like your school in particular.
413,000.
24, just over $2,400 of PIC funds. For a nice big party.
So it's alphabetical, if anyone wants to scroll through. So
That's what I was gonna talk about.
Well, that was,
that was what you, oh, okay.
yeah, like just that the amount of money is actually, like, it's increased because I guess, COVID was a factor there because the spending wasn't happening and now the numbers like.
Yeah.
But typically in terms of like where CSBCs and principal learning needs to be is that, I mean, minus the 1,000, that was COVID, right? So there's many councils that are well above that. So we need to start getting parent engagement initiatives going, getting spending going. Those, coming into January, actually tomorrow's principals meeting, we'll start saying like, these are your funds, especially like within our own area. Let's start spending. We're here to support that. That's good. But the collaborative process with chairs is really important.
Annalisa?
So that's what I was trying to allude to, like, this amount is like ridiculous. When I saw this, I actually had to do a double take. I thought my glasses were broken because Like in the past, it's always been at a stable like 250, 300, but to have it at this amount, COVID or no COVID, that we can't justify that. We talk about equity, we talk about, doing this for our students and our parents, yet we're sitting on over $400,000. So at one point, does it, we have to say, use it or lose it. And we did do this years ago. I'm talking like before Manuela, I think Carla was there and John Shane. And we did put it out there, use it or lose it. And then I think there was a motion at board that the money came back and then it was equitably distributed to the schools that actually needed it. So something has to give. Like this is ridiculous.
I can
It really
add,
is.
so prior to COVID, there was the same plan.
Yeah.
That was to go to board.
Yep.
And COVID hit.
Yep.
And I think that that's already, I would say 1,000. So each school, if they had 1,000, that's 2,000. Then the other item that, again, because, and that's one point that I discussed in front of Jen with the ministry is we needed very strict guidance from the ministry to actually say that, because with schools, some schools got into a pattern of saying, well, we'll apply for pro, because that if we get it and we don't use it, we lose it, because we would send the funds back. And we'll save these funds because these funds will be ours forever. So we do have some work to do to say, no, you have to spend. So we're looking at the next 2 years. Because prior to that, there was the plan and we were going to give councils that heads up that you have 2 years to spend these funds. And after the 2 years, we will claw them back and give it to the schools that every year, some schools are down to 500, right? Because they plan for that every year.
Does the possibility exist of creating collaborations amongst schools where they choose to come together and do something?
Yeah.
Always.
So it always, that piece is always there, but in all the literature around these funds, not all funds. So councils can use fundraise funds for other things, but around these funds, they're really meant for local planning, not family of school planning. However, if the schools get together and the councils with the blessing of the principal, that's happened in the past.
Yeah, because I just had a conversation with a school who the principal got together with another principal and they had an event for the school that they were paying for out of their block budget. But it was clearly an item that could have come out of this and it wasn't on the radar. So I'm just wondering how much.
But it's not an event that affects.
It was for parents. The event was for the parents. It was the internet safety, Paul Davis or something like that, which would work for this. Okay, so just the follow-up for that, you had said something, Manuel, I don't know if I understood it correctly. So if a school hosted an event 2 weeks ago with the intention of it being using funds from pro, is that not eligible?
This pro is from September to June.
Okay,
Remember,
so it would
we
be
just got, typically, going forward,
Yeah.
we were assured that we can start this planning in September. And because we already have the plan.
Yeah.
It's just sending the information out in September.
Thank you.
Not to put the onus on principals, but I think that sometimes CSBCs get together and they're so gung ho, but let's go raise money. And then an event's happening and where the principal can say, hey guys, like slow down, like, is this something we can use our PIC funds for? Because sometimes they get so excited about raising the money, they forget they have this little pot sitting. So maybe getting it like on top of mind, a principal saying, just to kind of be the one that reins them in a little,
Yeah, that's the exact conversation that I'll be having with principals and principals.
Perfect.
It's like, okay, we have the amounts, you can find them easily, but here they are. You need to start when a CSPC is discussing an event or where they want to be, you need to say, maybe we've got this much. Maybe it can come from there or supplement from there. And then we're always here to consult whether it's legitimate or not.
Because we check the block budget, we know but not all of them do.
Yeah, not all.
The chairs may not see that, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that piece is gonna be in training. When it's training on that document, that's gonna be included.
And we want, whether it's PIC or pro, really, after the inaugural meeting, the first CSPC meeting, that should always be on the agenda, right? What are we going to do with these funds? Because if it's on the agenda and ultimately these funds, like they're up for parents to discern and with the principal and the staff how to use them. So it's just a question of getting into a pattern and getting over this. We're already expecting a little bit of confusion with the $500, like why not the 1,000, right? So that's already built into the template this year where it says 500 max.
Sorry, just to allude to Annalisa's point, use it or lose it. Now, would we come to that motion at some point? Because to be fair, like some CSPCs have just come new into the game. They don't know about the SPIC existing. They're just reading the bylaws. Are we planning to go backwards and see if CSPCs were aware of it and they just decided not to use it and then try to bring this motion, use it or lose it? No, we're not planning to do any
No,
of that.
that was a plan that happened. So to claw back money, it's not just this table making a motion. There has to, like, senior management has to make a lot of decisions with business services around putting a plan together. So that's not on the table right now.
But I think to Manuela's point, I think it went to we're gonna lose that 500 pro money, let's use it now, and then the pick just.
James?
I think that the use isn't, I mean, it's not being used because of, I think the language. Because if I look at the resources right now, it says, you can't use it on software. You can't. And I'm on the Ottawa Catholic School Parents Association because I just Googled PIC grants. I was looking for examples on what to use this for. And their website says door prizes for contests to increase parent engagement, survey participation, libraries, creating welcome packages, volunteer appreciation events and activities. I think that wording is more permissive, it kind of gives you more ideas. And we could use it on events, right?
How about
Does that
video
include
arcade
food?
games or poker games?
I'm sorry?
How about video arcade trucks and poker games?
Let me speak to it just briefly.
Gambling?
So this has been a journey in terms of, it's not just about the funds around this table. It's really a journey about helping and informing parents. So if councils want to use door prizes with CSPC fundraised funds, but the minute you allow for permissive language, then that's a slippery slope. And the whole idea is that once councils start using these funds, there'll be very little funds. And I think the ministry is guiding us towards that. And it's really is, if we start saying, well, how do we water this down? But for me, it's not about watering it down. It's really about, you have $1,000. How are you going to use it throughout the year to multiple events? So if you have curriculum night, hosting, providing food, that's covered. But I think the conversation really needs to be localized with the principal.
Okay.
So I'll use one clear example. Back when I was younger, we used to be able to fund agendas. The ministry then came out with, that's a student tool. However, there's always a however. In some communities that still use paper agendas, they're using it also as to improve communication flow between the teacher and home, not school, to improve school communication. So there is language, but then again, councils can't use those funds to subsidize agendas and then make agendas fundraisers. So it goes beyond just setting simple language. I do the same. When I started 6 years ago, I Googled everybody's board. And I was happy to sit with Jen. And I can tell you that our board, we have processes in place in terms of whether it's the principal, the superintendents, this table. And I think we've come a long way, but we really didn't want to kind of defer from what these funds are meant for. So even filling in the template, people need to tell me what the learning was. So if there's a barbecue and there's no learning, it's called a party. So if there's a learning component, then some of the event can be subsidized.
Okay, because I feel like there's a gap between CSPC and parents. Like I can't just mass message my community. And I was thinking of using that on software, but then the language and the literature says you can't use it on software, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm just talking.
Well, to Manuela's point about the, like, we used to use it for the barbecue, the welcome back barbecue, but then we had a parent learning component in that evening.
The welcoming package.
No, it was like, we used it like, it was like the barbecue plus curriculum night, and then there was like a small, like, there was a parent information
Yeah.
part, so that money paid for the, even though it was just for that specific thing, it kind of paid for the whole thing.
Okay, yeah, because that's, I feel like that's the direction we're taking it this year, like my community. Yeah, it just took us a while to get here because we were looking at that pro and pick amount. And we're like, what do we do with that? What do we do with
And
it?
you know what, James, you guys aren't the only ones. Like, Manuela and can speak to it, 'cause she's been here around the table for 6 years and she's had like a slew of requests and ideas that come through. And for those of us who've been sitting around the table a while, you know what I mean? Sometimes we're like, we don't realize, because we're fortunate that we have the information. But like to Rochelle's point, she said, someone who's just walking in or new to the CSPC is just getting their feet wet. This is brand new. And this is, like you said, now they gotta read the lingo, they gotta understand. So sometimes it does take time, and hopefully with, you know, with Ryan pushing the principles and the opportunity that we have again with your CSPCs, when you're communicating, you know, encourage, right? We're here to encourage the, you know, for them to do things at the local level. And it is an opportunity to deal with, like, some of our schools may have an issue around a particular thing. Like, for instance, if you want to help like some kids with tutoring, right? Or parents helping their kids with homework, you may want to bring in, say, a tutor, an excellent expert in that field, walk them through a process. So now your parents walk away with a skill that can help their child succeed. Right? So it's almost like it's literally thinking out of the box, right? Like, so I think you're on that path, because if you're already thinking out of the box, you're already going to be.
Like, for example, the government has this program called Mathify, where you go online through TV Ontario. But I'm sure there's a lot of parents out there who don't have computers, who don't have internet. They probably don't even know how to get in there. You could, you know, give them ideas and how to use it, you know, or kind of have like some other idea of how they could use whatever they're learning on the internet through the Mathify program and apply it in person. It's just going to put our brains together and figure out what
I think
ideas.
that's part of where like a CSPC's goal setting meeting would be around budget, right? It's sitting around the table and discussing what are the needs of the parent population in supporting student achievement at a CSPC level, where, you know, your principal has a school improvement plan that they've done. How do the two mirror each other? And then, you know, you're looking at what other data points around student achievement are there, you know, specifically, I don't want to get into this conversation, but I will, around EQAO scores, and then how can parents, you're welcome. And then how can parents and these funds may support, you know, math scores in grade 6 or grade 3, right? So, you know, there's funds that are there, and I had a conversation with a principal the other day, and they said, you know, Ryan, sometimes we try to bank these because speakers or initiatives are more than the 500 per. So there are those groupings out there that are planning ahead for something. I don't want to use COVID as the only example because that's only $1,000, but we really do need to, in terms of, you know, from this level and our CSPC level and our parent and our principal levels, when there's resources like this that will fit supporting parents, supporting kids, okay? And then what is the need? We've really done a deep dive this year in focusing on school improvement around, and not done, it's the huge focus is around, you know, what are our how can parents, and this is my part of my principal talk, which will relate to PIC funds, is what initiatives can we look at that will support your school improvement and equity plan? And therefore, hopefully, not that EQAO is the only piece, but around learning and student achievement in terms of bringing those marks or understanding of learning up. So these are the conversations that are around advising the principal on how parents can help are the conversations that should be happening in your January kind of meeting.
So I want to call for receipt of the thing.
Call for what?
That's receipt of the report.
Basically, the gist of the thing is, as long as the parents are learning something, that's the end goal.
Yeah, it's about parents because we're focused. I mean, anyone in education is focused around students. So you have to kind of take a step back and go, okay, how is this fund or this initiative supporting specifically parents, which would support students? Now, one of the things that we had in our mental health modules last year that really struck me was, looking at what type of opportunities or things to support parents around their own relationships. I thought was amazing because, you're looking at when parents are having stress in the home, that stress pushes on to the children, which then affects the school and student achievement. So, I mean, that for me was kind of like, wow, that's creative thinking around that, right? So it's what does the family dynamic look like and how can the school support the family dynamic, which ultimately all of it supports student achievement.
So receipt.
Yes.
Receipt. I have a motion. Thank you, Ryan. Jen, and a seconder. Okay. So it was a great conversation. Anyone oppose the report? Again, like I said, something new that's coming. So anyone opposed? None? Okay, so the report carries. Okay, 12C is member orientation. So we were supposed to do it last meeting. We ran out of time. So I don't have actually, I'm gonna apologize, I don't have this item on, I actually have this item. I don't have it printed, I have it on the screen. Okay, here we go. Perfect. So I don't have it printed out. I haven't sent it out to you guys. I apologize. It is on the screen. Okay. Not 7 pages long, but it's something that I'll move through fairly quick. So as I'm going through, please do stop me if there's a question. I'll send it out to you guys after. Basically, what I'll be doing, in addition to the video that we gave everyone to watch, so hopefully everyone had a chance to watch the parliamentarian kind of walk you through how CPIC fits into the TCFB. This is going to be basically a high level of our bylaws. Then the expectation would be for you guys to reread your bylaws, reread policy, we watch the video and go from there. Okay, so we start with purpose. So we are a legislative parent voice of Toronto at the Toronto Catholic District School Board for parents and students in TC. Our mission is to improve student academic achievement and the emotional, spiritual, physical well-being of students by supporting, encouraging, and enhancing meaningful parent engagement. So academic achievement, student achievement is key, is at the core of what we do, because by encouraging, empowering our parents, you improve that, right? Every example we've given up until now, you've been listening, has always led to that end goal of kids getting better, more opportunities for them. Now, this is key. So Toronto Catholic PIC focuses on a system level matters affecting more than one school. So what we do around the table, when we're looking at an issue, we're looking at it, how it impacts more than one school, what we can do to improve, like if we're talking about communication of CSPCs or funding, whatnot, it's more than one school. How staff have mentioned earlier, when schools are creating that event, using those funds, those program funds, and they're looking for that local fix, that local initiative, that's the school. As a PIC, as CPIC, we are a board initiative. So how are we governed? This was something that would have been touched on in the video. But so there's several areas that touch on CPIC. One is the Ontario Education Act under 612.0, and basically enshrines rights, functions, obligations as a school board committee. We are also under our CDSP CPIC policy, it's policy 4, and it governs our obligations and alignment to board operations and policies. And now we have our CPIC bylaws, right? The book that everyone received last month. Our last major revision was September of 2019, where we made major changes. And it's basically, we have our bylaws similar to CPC, so there's consistency, fairness, and standard procedures and everything. Now, within our bylaws, sorry, the note is, in order to change bylaws, it's a more rigorous process. We're creating a subcommittee, we're discussing, we're bringing it to board, we're getting a vote to change. We're giving notice of motion and then we also have our CPIC policies, which basically govern day-to-day activities. We currently have 3 of them: a member expense reimbursement, a annual budgeting, and a parent member elementary award split and secondary cluster. So as part of this is where I said I would speak to mileage. And I'm gonna pass those that way. So under member expense reimbursement, one of the reimbursements that we offer is mileage. Now, again, it's optional. We're not going to force you to take the money. However, it is, again, something that we do in order to help parents who are giving of their time, right? And in this day and age where gas, I guess it's at an all-time low, right? Gas is now at an all-time low, not an all-time high. But in any case, the format we're giving you, there is an electronic form. It's basically the example. And you're basically tracking that mileage from board to home to board and back on the day of your trip and whatnot. So, and we'll send out the form with some more detailed instructions. There are other reimbursements that you would get as a CPIC rep. Say, for instance, you went out and picked up the pizza or got the coffee. You can submit those receipts, and we would reimburse you in that. So,
Is it 0.061 cents?
should be 61.
That's what I thought. I'm like, I feel like 6 cents
60
a kilometer.
kilometer.
is very low. Okay.
So again, we have our existing, and the membership expense reimbursement policy is actually under review right now. The mileage was approved up at a meeting in our last year, but we are looking to change the other components of that. So look for a new policy 1. Policy 5 is annual budgeting. So basically it basically gives a rundown on how we use our funding over the course of the term. At the moment, the allocation is 60% for means and operations, 40% for parent engagement activities. And this was actually brought up at our budget and priorities subcommittee meeting. But I'll touch on that a little bit more there. So again, if you look at budgeting, the annual budget policy, it just gives you breakdowns into how we spend the GSN money that we receive on an annual basis. Point 6 is parent membership, elementary awards split to secondary clusters. So we have 3 out of our 12 awards that are very big. So we split them. So Ward 5, Ward 8, and Ward 11. This policy basically says which schools were which. And then for our secondary members, this policy basically creates the schools, the clusters. And reason being is we want to make sure that every member on the table has the same amount of schools to kind of be responsible for. In the past, we did have a difference in number of schools that was brought forward by a previous rep saying, Ward 3 only has 11, but Ward 5 has 26. There's a little bit more running in that other one. So we created policy, basically tried to find balance. CPIC annual report was something you guys saw this evening. Is required to be compiled every year by the Ontario Education Act, Board Policy, and CPIC bylaws. So this is a requirement for us to basically give a full synopsis of what we did from November to September. It's written presented by the chair by October of each year. This year, I did present in December versus October only because of the elections. And the thought was we weren't sure, I guess, we weren't sure how many members were coming back. We would have given a report to previous board of trustees, and if a new board of trustees came forward, they wouldn't. And again, I ask everyone, all previous CSPC, CPIC annual reports are online, so you can go back and give them a read and see what we've done over, they go back almost 10 years. So you can go back and see what has been done over all those years. Membership, and this is something that should be familiar to everyone. If you've applied, you've seen this in various places throughout your applying and reading. We have 15 elementary ward parent members. We have 3 secondary cluster parent members, and we have 3 community representatives. So our members are always elected by our CSPC chairs, while our community representatives are appointed by committee. Our non-voting members are our trustee representative, our director of education or designate, and our liaison officer to the TCT, Ryan, Manuela, and Ida. And in terms of elections, and when we created these new bylaws and we put these in, even ward members are elected on an even year, odd ward members are elected on odd year. So we had that. That's how you'll know when around the table when it's time for you to run or not run. However, secondary and community members are only a 1-year term. Again, those elementary wards. So for our elementary ward members around the table, you have a 2-year term. So if you were elected this year, you have this year, next year. If you were elected the previous year, this year will be your ending year. But secondary and community members are only here for 1. And the term, I had mentioned this earlier, it goes from November 1st to October 31st. Now you can end your membership early. There are some ways. One is you no longer qualify for position. So, and this has happened, sometimes people move. You leave the board, you no longer. Resignation, again, sometimes things happen in our lives where we cannot take on this task anymore, and you choose to take this out, right? This is the piece. So you would just write notice to the chair. Missing too many meetings is a way to end your membership early. Again, in our bylaws, it says 3 or more consecutive without advice and apologies or absence for 4 committee members meetings in a year. Okay, but again, it's in the next line. We have 7 meetings a year. So you have to understand that if you miss 4, I would reach out to you and ask what's going on, what's happening, because as much as it impacts, missing a meeting will impact quorum. There may be another parent that wants to join. There are several things. So that 3 or 4 is that number. Just keep in mind. And the last one is violation of conflict of interest. So we spoke to conflict of interest last meeting, and if something happens and after investigation, the committee does have the option to remove from your position. So in terms of committee meetings, we do have 7 scheduled regular meetings. That's changed. Like I can tell you when I first started, I believe we had 10, we've gone to 9, we moved down to 8, now we're down to 7. We are always looking at and seeing what works, like what is we're looking for efficiency in essence, right? We want to be around this table as much as we can, but we want to make the most of our time around the table. So this year there are 4 in person and 3 virtual. That's new. Subcommittee meetings are scheduled as required. So any of our standing subcommittees, whatever meeting required, we schedule them. The other piece was why we reduced our regular meetings to 7 is we have the option to call a special meeting. Right? So if there is a very important issue, right? The board, the committee can call a special meeting. I think in the last 2 years, last 3 years, we've had 2 special meetings. And again, usually around an issue. I think our first special meeting in 2020 had to do with returning to school during a pandemic, right? And CPIC came together in order to kind of discuss that. So again, that's where a special meeting is available, right? Where we're talking about issues, big issues like that. And in terms of when we're calling meetings, obviously our regular committee meetings are all scheduled. Everyone has all those dates. But when we're calling our subcommittee meetings, we ask for 7 days of notice. Okay. Questions so far? I apply if I'm going too fast, please ask me to slow down. So quorum for me is I did touch on this briefly with regards to if parents are missing or not missing. Our quorum is 50% rounded down of an elected and appointed committee members as present. So we currently have 15 members around that table. So half of that is 7.5, rounded down is 7. So today, when we were kind of all rolling into the room, I was counting, and as soon as I got to 7, I know we were good to go, as long as, right? But in addition to those 7 parents, plus the director of education or the designate has to be here, the trustee representative or alternate representative has to be here. And then again, similar to CSPCs, a majority of the members present need to be parent members.
8 is quorum, right?
It's half rounded down. 15, half 15 is 7.5. Round down.
5 gets rounded
Round
down.
down. That's, yeah. I would say 8. I think tonight I said it's 7 just to be safe, but we once upon a time our quorum was our quorum was 30%. I recall, and I remember when we went through bylaw revision, we asked for 30%. We like the quorum has to be an incentive, right? If we don't all show up, this just becomes, I guess, a coffee break or a party, depending on what kind of food we're serving, right? So that's why we do need parents coming in, and that's why we've also created that other piece of balance. So we're here and we're online so that we can kind of find that flow, make sure everyone has the opportunity to come out. And so again, if you cannot attend the meeting, please let the chair or recording secretary know. So I'm very pleased that we have the 3 members that weren't here this evening sent me an email. And that's awesome. As from a chair perspective, as I'm trying to organize the night, prepare things, when I know something has come up in your life that you can make it and you let me know, that's very appreciative. We are all volunteers around the table. So when something does come up and you need to step aside and deal with it, the rest of us here are very understanding. I can tell you, truthfully, I'm very understanding when a parent says, Joe, something has come up, not a problem, right? We do prioritize in our life when family or things come up, please do deal with those things. Because at the end of the day, we're here to help families deal with their kids. So sometimes, we forget, right? So don't forget, right? Make sure you're, as much as with the advocating we're doing for all these parents to take care of their kids, do better. We need to be advocate sometimes for each other. In terms of meeting processes, in addition to our bylaws, we use Robert rules as a guide. We try to keep our meetings structured, but we want them informal. So when we're discussing, we're informal. But I know we've been having some conversations tonight and going back and forth. Let's please do raise our hand and let me call on you so that we can because I know sometimes more than one person raises. I want to give everyone an opportunity. That's the next line. I want to give everyone the opportunity to speak and be heard, right? That's around the table. One of the things I've always said, I keep saying, is if we all had the same idea, or we're all on the same page, or we all had that thing that we wanted to do was all the same, we wouldn't be having these things. Literally, because we have different perspectives, bring different things to the table. We have different ideas, different thought process, different life experiences, right? Which you're bringing here. The conversation gets deeper and we can kind of move forward on different things. The goal is to get through the content. So to get through the agenda, starting and ending on time. So that's very important. And it's something that chairs before me have started. Actually, the chair before me, that was the first goal when he became chair, was to get out on time. And me as my chair, when I'm planning the agenda, I try to plan it so that we can get through everything and get home at a reasonable time as well. Our meetings are streamed on YouTube for public to watch. Again, this is happening right now. And because now we are a public meeting, anyone can basically come into the CEC and sit down around us and listen and listen to us in here. Okay. The process, and this is Article 12 in the bylaws, we want to read it off, is when we have conversations, sometimes we have motions. When we have that motion, we debate. When our debate, we vote. Okay, so something similar. For those of you who've watched board meetings, we follow a similar structure. It may not be as rambunctious as in a board meeting, but we have that. So in terms of agenda items, when you see items on the agenda, it's usually coming from myself and seeing what's going on in the board or items out there, or even from conversations with, again, like I said earlier, having a conversation with a rep, we added the communication, and sometimes other conversations bring items forward, sometimes coming from board items. But as a rep, you can request an item. So if you're looking to add an item to the agenda, you need to send it to me 10 calendar days before the scheduled meeting, the topic and material, right? So we can assess it. Once the agenda is posted, we don't add anything to it. And again, this is something that I've stressed in the past. I don't add anything once an agenda is posted because again, when we're creating the agenda, that timepiece, I'm keeping the timepiece so that we can get through something within our 2.5 hour slot. So the more we add, so unless it's a very urgent matter, we kind of will discuss it and see if it fits there or next meeting. So again, when looking at topics, we do have our mission and objectives of the organization, Article 2, which helps guide ideas that we may want to bring to. Okay. So duties of a CPIC member. I'll read this quickly. Again, Article 13. Observe and uphold the committee's bylaws, policies, and code of ethical conduct. Attend community meetings during the committee operating year. Participate actively in meetings of the committee. Conduct themselves at committee meetings in a professional and cordial manner in the context of Christian and Catholic gospel values. Act as a link between the committee and the respective ward or work clusters of schools in support of programs to improve student achievement and development. Make every effort to be as representative of the Toronto community as possible. Participate in information and training programs, agree to be photographed or recorded while executing their duties. Shall serve on a minimum of one standing subcommittee established by the committee. Shall hold at least one in-person or electronic meeting of the ward or work clusters of schools. So this is, it's in our bylaws. This is kind of your what I do want to remind all the members around the table, you know, depending on how new you are to CPIC, some of these things seem overwhelming or it's to reach. So the expectation is that, again, participating actively in meetings, right? You're doing some of those things, right? You conducting yourself, participating in information and training. Those are the sessions, I guess we would hear from staff later on when those training sessions are being held. As PIC members, we would attend. Again, the training session gives you more information that when you're having that conversation with CSPCs, you can address them or refer them, right? That's what's giving you that. Okay. So again, it's in your bylaws. Give it an overview. We can ask any questions so far. So member ethical code of conduct, I'm not going to walk through because I did read through this at our last meeting and we did all sign off on this, right? Unless there's questions with regards to the code of conduct. Right, again, as a CPIC member, we're just asking you again to hold yourself as a professional, right? Especially when we're out there representing the committee. So I know we touched on conflict of interest as well, and I'll just touch briefly on it. So conflict of interest, why does it matter? Again, Article 14. So CPIC receives funding from the Ministry of Education that we spend on service providers and vendors as part of day-to-day operations and for board events. This includes parents and parent councils over potential ideas for fundraising, speakers, and school purchases. Again, because we are funded from the ministry, we do things. At the end of the day, if there's we can't we cannot, I'm sorry, I'm gonna just, the word is, I can't find the word. We can't take advantage of the situation. Best to describe it. Right, we're here again as volunteers for the idea we're pushing student achievement through helping our parents. So whatever we're doing, we can't take advantage. It can't be something in it for us. Other than,
You can't advertise your company in case you're self-employed or something.
yeah, then there's, and then we do go through a couple of definitions, compensation, financial interests, and as an interested member. That we ask. And again, the responsibility at every meeting, I will ask declaration of interest. Right, so again, something changes from meeting to meeting. Something you see something on the agenda that you're not sure of, you have the opportunity to do that, right? So as that responsibility of a member, you have the opportunity to declare that interest. If there's a violation of conflict of interest, it basically will lead to an investigation, and then at which time the committee would decide what would happen to that member based on the investigation or what the conflict of interest was. Questions? Again, we did sign the conflict of interest forms at the last methods of communication. So before I go into this, is everyone's email working? Everyone's email works? Email works? Annalisa, no. Ravi works. Your CPIC email?
I haven't logged, I have to check it, but I'll confirm it.
Your email, yes, works? Works.
Just, mine doesn't work on my phone though, so I still have to.
That's a whole other.
Download the app.
Does everyone have that problem?
Download the app.
So
I'm not the only one.
But it works, your email, like you can check.
Yeah, it works on my computer, but
So if, in case anyone loses their password, I could now reset it. We don't have to go through IT, just connect with me. In terms of getting your email on your phone, IT is creating a new updated information. What they've informed me through technical language is that will only work until till December. In January, there is something that you have to download so that you can get your email on your phone, because it depends on the operating system that you're using on your phone. So you can't say, is everybody else having the same issue, because everyone probably has a different operating system on their phone. But that information, which will be forthcoming, we'll identify, we'll ask you what your operating system is, and then we'll provide directions with that.
Okay, so if your email's not working, please, let's get it going. Because again, so every member. Every member gets an email and a phone number. Now, you don't need to check your phone for messages, because if someone calls you, you get an email. Okay, so that was set up a few years ago because we thought it would just be easier, right? So we went through with our RCT department and they set that up. And again, so our email it's governed by TCDSB acceptable use policy, right? So when you're using that policy, remember that we are under the umbrella of the board in terms of that. So all communications, again, the reason why you're giving this email, all communications to CPCs, principal staff should be done using your TCDSB.org email. And one thing is, if you're in your email and you see a non-board email come to you, there's always a little warning at the top, right? Because it's saying like, this isn't an email that it's just basically giving you a heads up, with technology the way it is, a lot of times things coming through email. I'm sure everyone has a story that they can share of someone clicking on the wrong link, phishing or phishing. I know when I was working with the bank, there's a lot of things. And it's still a thing these days in terms of email, right? Just because email has kind of fallen down the ranks of communication, it's still a target. So again, the board recognize that, so they do want to keep everyone safe. In that sense. Again, all the communication for me, I have been BCCing people, but I will be strictly moving to your CPIC email soon. And so using your email, again, when you're emailing a principal or staff or a trustee, when it's coming from a board email, it does show that there's already a sense of you're part of I guess, the group, the committee, versus when they receive a personal email, they may have to try to recognize the name, but then go into the email and read a bit more. It's a bit more, it's a little tougher. So, right, that's what your board email gives you access to staff and to your trustees and your CSPC and to your principals. Again, one of the things you can do is when we're promoting things is you can send your school principal an email, right? Your CSPC, your school's principal, and ask them to distribute using school messenger. Again, so by using your board email gives you that principal when they see it because they're more comfortable. Now, the one thing we can do with our principals, right? It's highlights. I underline it. It's direct, right? We can give them direction, and again, implicitly direct, and that's something actually that our parliamentarian spoke to in the video. We can send them the advertising, ask them to share. And again, in most cases, every principal will do it. You cannot say you must send this out. Okay. Remember the language when we're communicating with our principals, with our CSPCs, with our staff. Anything you're sending out, again, when you're sending out an email from this account, just remember where you're sitting, what you're representing. The last, so in terms of communication, so if you have social media, and this is something, we do have a guideline, a social media guideline, right? That we can share. If you identify yourself as a CPIC member on your social media, again, keep that in mind when you're posting. Anything you post can come back to you in a reflective of the screen. What we do say or what has been said by senior staff at the board is social media where you can make your personal remarks. You have one for board, right? So that's just the ask.
Sorry, Joe, you had pointed out something where you had engaged in someone monitored social media and engaged when appropriate. Is it okay to give us an example?
Sure. So okay. So when on my chair's report.
Yeah, like it
So
said.
we have a Twitter account. So I'm basically monitoring Twitter, watching Twitter, like whatever tweets when I either retweet or I create tweets is what I'm doing. So I'm just saying it instead of saying I retweet, tweet and retweet, I write in that fashion. That's in terms of that's what I'm doing in terms of. So again, because I'm tweeting from a CPIC Twitter, right? I'm making sure that the content that I'm sending out is good content. It's content that is a reflection of this table. You know what I mean? It's not a personal opinion. It's not something that I have a feeling like, you know, it's something that's bothering me. I don't use that Twitter, right? If I have a feeling or something that bothered me, I would not message in another way. Okay? That's why in terms of when I'm monitoring social media. And again, we have our website. Again, anything that's on the TorontoCPIC.ca website is board is usually anything. It comes straight from the board. We're just reorganizing it, kind of rewrapping it. And it's anything, and again, it's nothing personal from any, it's not opinionated. It's just information for parents. And again, our website is basically just kind of reorganized in a way that parents may find pieces that are easier. Would you guys have anything to say on communication? No?
Joe, just tight on time, that's all.
Yeah, it's
Just a reminder.
no problem. So again, connecting with your ward, you've been given all a list with your CSPC chairs. So hopefully everyone sent out that introductory letter introducing yourselves. If you haven't, Christmas is coming up, so this is a great time to do it, send Christmas wishes. Again, similar to what was under duties, consider scheduling a ward meeting or a gathering. And that's an opportunity that you can take on. I know everyone's will be indifferent to how we're going to do it, but you can take it. Yes.
This has been like an ongoing thing with sending out the emails and getting responses or
Yeah.
something back from the schools or some acknowledgement that they received it. I mean, it'd be great. Whoa, I just had one fast.
I mean, I can tell you that half of my parent councils aren't checking their CSPC account, so I have to literally either text them and
Why
say,
go to the schools?
I emailed you, check it, or I have to email them on their personal account.
No, we don't have access to that, so we're left.
I know, but the only reason why I have access to it is because I hounded them to give it to me. And it's not like I got it from the school.
No, not from the school, so I mean, literally, I have one of my schools, I have one personal email and I correspond with them a lot because it's so interested. And I actually like physically go to the schools when I can because I'm trying to like create.
It's a similar challenge to the PIC conversation.
Yeah.
Right? So again, there's, that's the piece. Rochelle?
Out of all the schools I emailed, I only got 2 principals that emailed me back. Thank you.
Yeah.
And one invited me.
And again, it is,
So it makes you wonder if they even received it.
and again, and Jen had mentioned this earlier, like sometimes depending on timing of emails, right? Sometimes some kind of CSPCs will go into, they won't check for a week on end, right? Because it's not the constant point. And even to speak to that, last year, we had an initiative, right? For those members that recall, we said, if you respond back, we'll put you in a draw for $100. And that didn't work either, to tell you the truth.
Really?
Right, so again, we thought we would try something different and we did, and the results were, and again, it comes down to more like, and it's similar to, again, to what staff keeps saying to PIC is continue awareness, continuous making them understand what, and again, the conversation I had with you guys, your board email gives you access. Right, when staff receive an email from a board email, they're more comfortable reading that email. When they get it from Joe Ferrante at gmail.com, they're like, oh, they don't know who I am. Who is this person, right? There's.
It's not on our end, Joe. It's on the other end.
Yeah.
And we've been beating this horse for a long time. It's the same thing every year. So I think like at
Well,
some
then
point we
we
gotta
need to
come up
come up
with
with an idea.
solution. Yeah,
And maybe when we get further down into our like into the budget thing,
okay,
it could be an agenda topic at our cluster meeting.
yeah,
Can I give you an idea really quickly?
Yes.
'Cause I'm cognizant of time. I don't know what your relationship's like with your local school trustee, but what I did with Mr. Fiorante was he came to a lot of the CSPC meetings with me. And we sat at the table. I introduced him. He was speaking, I think at the time it was bylaws. I was bringing the reports back from staff. So if you have a relationship with your trustee in your area, I suggest you just reaching out and saying, look, we're having a tough time getting parents involved. You have access to parents. Like, can we work together collaboratively? Even if you didn't have a relationship with him 4 years ago or with her 4 years ago, say, look, it's a new term. We're here for the parents. We're here for the kids. Let's make this happen.
I do, and I'll try that again.
Try. And if we don't try, we'll never know. It's like the lotto ticket. If we don't buy a lotto ticket, we'll never win. We never know.
If you don't apply for the
Exactly.
playground revitalization fund, you're not gonna get the money. Okay, so in conclusion, okay, read the agenda, read the previous one, they're all online, read our bylaws, read our policies, become familiar with how we operate. That's how you're gonna figure it out. Watch board meetings, there's a Thursday night or Tuesday night or a Wednesday night, but there's no sports on. And you see, learn how the board operates, right? Again, we have our trustees that can speak to that or answer any questions offline to help us participate in this meeting, right? With ideas and your questions. Again, this is why we're here. I said earlier, if we all have the same idea, we all have the same question, this isn't necessary. Speak to other members. Like I said, I'm always available for anyone who has questions, wants to have a conversation, and we can go through other things. I added, this is new to this year. I added this, be patient, right? This is a journey, right? We just heard Jay speak to the playground journey and reassured another member that it is a journey. There's a lot of times, nothing we do is instantaneous, okay? I know we live in a world where we can just click like and the heart button and see things. We know that things that are worthwhile take time and take work, right? So this is at the same time, patience will get you, and make the best and the most of your role. Okay. Any questions? No. It's clear as mud. Someone to move receipt of the orientation, Jen? Daniel? Anyone opposed? No, that carries. Thank you, everyone. Hopefully I didn't,
Joe, is there anything on the agenda we don't have to cover tonight?
so we have just the minutes of our subcommittee and reports. And just something coming back from board. We'll go through our next item. So our next item is printed is our minutes from our budget and subcommittee meeting. Okay. So thank you to those members who came. We had a full complement that night. We basically created a drawdown list. Okay. So again, we came up with items, we allocated funds, we had like we basically discussed what we were thinking to do between now and the end of the year. And how much we would put aside. Again, we want to look, and our current balance is 91,000. We're looking to take 65,000 off. Again, hear from staff, there's funding, let's use it. Right? So we came up with, we're shooting for the moon in essence. We're shooting for the stars, we're gonna hit the moon. Is that how it goes? Yeah. But again, so you can see, we're looking to hold a board-wide event. We've allocated 5,000. We want to hold a conference. CPIC hasn't held a conference since May of 2019. We've allocated 25,000 for that. We want to do a CPIC appreciation night. We want to show our CPICs. That we appreciate the work that they put in. Many of us around the table are CPIC members, so you're well aware of the work you do and the members on your CPIC. Right, so we want to show them appreciation. So board events, this is something that we were discussing. We weren't sure if we should do it as individual or as in clusters. Now again, as individuals, we kind of went with the cluster idea because of the mixture of members, new and old. We can support one another, right? And if the event is bigger, we're probably better to get a bigger showroom. I just spoke to the one we did. We did it March 2nd of 2020. And we did have a great showing. And what the plan was to continue that process. It was actually, the plan was to bring it back to CPIC and to make other wards do the same thing, but something happened. So now we're going back to the, to that starting line, and we're going to try to do it as a bigger group and then maybe draw out those smaller groups as well. And again, on those nights, we can bring up issues like responding to your email or things of that nature. Promotional items, similar to the things that we wear, we've allocated 5,000, and a knowledge portal. So this is something that was brought up. Seeing whatever events we come up with, we're trying to find a way to put that information then online so parents can access to it, have access to resources and to additional information from any speaker that. Okay. Questions about our allocation? As well, and so the back of the page. So this is our annual budget policy 5. I spoke to this earlier in the orientation. It hasn't been revised since 2018.
Is the date on the 2021, 2022?
Oh, okay.
Just a note.
The annual budget policy has been revised since September of 2018. Now, I recall when we revised it because I was the treasurer at the time, so I created all the documents in terms of coming up with basically all the breakdowns that are evident here. Right. So in having the conversation with the budget committee, we find that this is no longer reflective, and actually, there's a bullet point here. It says 40% of base funding will be allocated to parent engagement activities separate from any parent reaching out grants applied for and or received. There was a time that CPIC used to receive program funds. That time has come and passed. So you can see how old this document is. So the committee has decided we are going to review this document. We didn't review it that night because there's no trend to follow. We've had 2 years of interrupted business. This year, we're hoping to have 1 full year of consistent business. At that point, we'll be able to see where we spent what funds. We'll be able to reallocate or make this more reflective of the business we conduct. Okay. So those are the report from our business, our budget, and so and again with the ideas that we've come forward. they'll now go to the other standing committees for continuing planning, right? So our event and conference and communication will take on certain aspects of the continuing plan. Are there any questions?
You need a motion to approve it?
A motion to receive the report. Yep. Anyone opposed? None. That passed. Thank you. Okay, so note 14. So reports from, so 15 is our reports from our director designate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I'd like to thank Gary for trustee Tanawa, I apologize, for 10 years of devoted service to our Catholic Parent Involvement Committee and all of the great work, well, 10 plus, I believe, in the role of trustee that he's done with our group and to advocate for parents. I have a great opportunity to work on multiple levels with Gary. He can't get rid of me. We have schools that we share, and this was a great time to work with him in his roles of parent engagement rep from the trustees. And I'd like to welcome Ida to the table. I think it's a great addition to our team. I know that in listening to her over the past, I guess it's coming 2 years into my role, she's been a staunch advocate for parents and school councils, and I think she'll be a great advocate around this table and a great voice. So thank you both for your service here tonight. So thanks, guys. So parent engagement at Christmas time, and we always do our best to always frame why Catholic education is different and why it is, it's different. And that's one of the major pieces is Christmas. So what I've been seeing out in the field and on social media is an amazing amount of parents doing concerts, Christmas markets, everything. Santa is visiting everywhere, all the time, at multiple times, at the same time. The schools are alive. I have two not young anymore, but one in elementary and one in a sort of high school position. When I walk through their schools at Durham Catholic, Christmas is alive. So the work that parents are doing and teachers and administrators are doing is amazing. Couple updates kind of around the senior table is we have a new superintendent of equity and diversity, equity, community relations, Indigenous education, who will start January 9th, Roy Fernandez. Sorry, Gary, that's one of your schools for SADI. So we'll be looking for a new superintendent. Agriar will be appointing a new principal there, but we're very excited to have a new member to the senior team in Roy Fernandez. And your previous director's designate, Superintendent John Wuyak, has announced his retirement. And they're in the process of selecting a new superintendent for, I think, what we would call Area 5, but those are different wards. So those are two kind of updates that will be coming, and you will be working with some of those senior team members. We are kind of this year in what would be called central agreements, and all of our local bargaining groups are bargaining with the province. So that did see what you saw with QP. That agreement has been ratified by its membership. We are moving into provincial negotiations with teachers at the secondary and the elementary level. So keep your eyes on the news. Parents have a voice in kind of how that plays out. If we saw anything, what happened with QP and days where schools were out, I can't predict what's going to happen, but we're kind of in that place again. We're actually in this place right before COVID. We were at central bargaining, which was the province, and then we moved to local bargaining, and then COVID hit. So we're kind of come full circle back to where those areas are. In terms of where parent engagement is, we've been really working with the new election for trustees, CPIC, and all the parent councils across. So we're just coming out of this kind of critical time where there's, significant questions around CSPCs. And we want to move into kind of more of a planning rather than crisis mode. That's kind of where we're all kind of looking at every piece of the pie around education. Is let's try and come out of crisis and into planning. So one of the things I suggest for all CSPCs to do is eventually, they're not there yet, but is to be taking a look, and it's downloadable off the website. Last year's is there, but to be looking at every school's school improvement and equity plan. That'll give you an idea of the direction and focus of where your school is headed. And that should be presented at all CSPC meetings as well. The board does have, and they're in development based on all schools, school improvement and equity plans, a board improvement and equity plan. And that's probably where we need to be looking at, and eventually, depending on the will of CPIC, we can have our superintendent of student achievement come and maybe present on that at some point. Some of the things that we've been working on, actually brought forward from CPIC on behalf of CSPCs that we were able to kind of action quite quickly, was Zoom licenses for all CSPCs, which will happen in the new year. So that's great. And then, in conversation with our CIO, it's the understanding around what a subcommittee meeting is, why, the initial kind of idea was, well, the principal does the CSBC meeting and then that's that. Well, that's not kind of good enough, because with the amount of good work that councils are doing, there's multiple subcommittee meetings, which would mean that chairs of those committees would need to have a better license. So they were able to action that, and it will be coming in the new year. We're still looking at accounting software and what's the best possible avenue. We still around what we can use. So that's brought forward from kind of this table to our business services people who are still looking at it. I don't have any definitive on that, but I know that it's an area of interest here. School messenger did go to board. The report did go to board. What's come back is to stick with the recommendation coming back from board, and my trustee friends can help me if I mess this up, is to continue with the same process, but that there will be policies and procedures written to support kind of policy S10. And that will be brought through this group. We will be consulting on it and then also bringing it back to this group. And then one of the things that we'll be looking at over multiple years did come from CPIC, but it'll be a pet project for us in terms of our goal setting moving forward, and that's looking at a parent engagement. We're working on an asset-driven plan for schools and school councils to set local baseline goals reflective of the information from their activity report. So we're looking at what was discussed as a baseline index. We're kind of changing that wording and beginning to start the process of, from our department, what that might look like, and then what other departments need to be consulted on, and moving that process through to see how we can best support school councils and school improvement planning. So that's pretty much where we are in the beginning or the end of the year, and we're looking forward to January 2023 going forward.
Any questions?
Do we talk about languages that was talked about in the board meeting? The fact that they were going to bring up, the survey to all the schools to see if parents wanted certain languages taught to their children at school. Is that?
Mr. Chair, I don't know if that's for this table.
No? Okay.
If anything, it would be something the trustee would.
Okay.
So there were that in terms of where that policy is and where schools may want to work with, there's a conversation that does have a piece around CSPCs. It was just quite early in the conversation.
Well, what was your question?
So because the last board meeting, they indicated that that languages, that the survey be done to be sent out to all the parents of the school particularly, and see if they wanted their children to learn the language, like at
Talking
school.
about the logistics of the
International
survey?
language.
Yeah, the international
The
language.
international language, yeah. You're talking about
I say it might be something that trustee
the trustees can speak to it.
brings up in the report.
We're not talking
Oh,
about right off
okay,
the
okay.
table, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Trustee.
So again, sorry, it's just, like I said, it's something, if it's something that trustee brings to the table to speak to.
Okay.
So again,
Why can't we talk about that? I'm just curious why CPIC can't talk about that.
why we can't talk about how IL is.
No, because I thought we were the communication between the board and the ministry and then the CSPC. I thought that's what we were.
Who, sorry, the board, we're the communication between the board and the ministry, is that what you said?
Yeah, like I just wanted clarification on that, like, are we able, no? Okay.
We're a statutory committee of the board for, that the ministry has created, but we don't communicate from the board. We're not the liaison of the board to the ministry.
Or to the CSPC, like it doesn't go down.
No, yes. Well, our role, we speak to the CSPCs,
Right.
right? That's why you were given a list, right? That's why
The
you
board
have that
have, the
list.
trustees have to first authorize that and then we forward it out to the,
No. There's no direct connection to the ministry from. CPIC.
oh, okay.
Well, do you want me to-
POAPC
do you want me to call it? So the IL policy that went to board is not yet finalized.
Oh, okay.
And there is a step that still requires finalization that speaks to schools who already started a survey about integrated language to be able to continue with that survey this year. However, any other school, that's not for this year. It'll be for the following year. But the policy right now is still under revision. And once it's revised and finalized and cleaned up, then it'll be posted. And usually communications will send out information to everyone that the policy, that particular policy has been updated.
There's a lot of changes happening in that policy. So right now, it's too complicated to talk about.
No, but I want to go back to clarifying, like, and again, anything, I want to clarify that CPIC's role is communicating to our CSPCs. We're trying to create a line of conversation with them. Again, I touched on it, on member rotation. Student achievement is the driver. Now, yes, you can say, the health program impacts student achievement. Thank you. But again, how IL is run becomes an operational piece, right? Now, we as CPIC can empower our parents to speak to what they think of the program, right? There has to be a way, an avenue that we can
First, that operational stuff.
offer them the advice, but we can't speak on the particular operation of the program, right? That becomes a board of trustee issue. Again, we have to, the way the business we're doing, the business they're doing, we don't do the same type of business, in essence, is what I'm trying to say, right? So an engagement, we're engaging, like I said, this is I'm gonna use Manuel's words, it's that slippery slope.
Yeah.
We're having a conversation, right?
But this is a conversation we can't have though. I'm getting the impression that we can't have this conversation. We can't have the conversation.
We can have the conversation where we can empower parents to use their voice to speak of the issues at their local school, right? Now, again, IEL is, it's in 44 schools, it's 44. So you can say from a super perspective, yes, it's over, but each school deals with IL separately. There are some schools that like it, some schools that don't like it, right? That's the spectrum. And we can offer parents how to go about. But parents at the local school need to follow the process through their principal, through their SO, through their trustee, and of that in that state, right?
I want to clarify what the senior coordinator said, Manuela. Everything is correct. I just want to make sure that there was no misunderstanding. During the last meeting, the only exception is this year, meaning the deadline has already passed. So the exception is made that if the school has already started, okay, in fact, Superintendent Brea called me this afternoon and said, what was that school that you mentioned? Sorry, it was not Cardinal Angel, it was Divine Infant. He said, if it's in the minutes of the school council, then it will be considered, regardless whether they sent a survey or not. That is just for this year, right? But otherwise, everything will go in the next school year, which is 22, 23. Just to make that clear.
So they have an extension till March, right?
Only for those schools
Only for those
That-
schools.
that sort of started, let's just say, the process of the IL program, regardless whether they send a survey or not. If they discuss it during the school meeting and it's in the minutes, then it's counted.
Okay.
Thank you.
So if there's any other questions, again, because we can discuss them offline, right? If that's okay with everyone, right? There's staff in the room, there's trustees in the room. You know, we're almost at the end of it. We can have a conversation. So can I get someone to receive the report? Seconder, Daniel. Okay, anyone opposed? None? Okay. 16A is our trustee report. So turn over.
Jesus.
All right, so I'm
I'm waiting all
gonna,
night for this.
I'm waiting all night. I'm so excited. I have the biggest shoes to fill with trustee 10-1 leaving. And I just want to say thank you so much for the past 10+ years. I mean, I'm just gonna reiterate what everyone said, your passion and enthusiasm. Every time there's a CPIC report that's on the agenda, really motivated all of us, really.
I'm
So
sure you will do a great job.
thank you so
You
much.
always do.
So I know that time is of the essence and everybody wants to get home. A little bit about me, I was elected in 2018. So far I've sat on governance and policy, the mental health committee, the first trustee in I think 15 years to sit on Toronto Board of Health. So that's something I'm very proud of. And I'm really excited to join all of you at CPIC. For those of you that know me, or have worked with me in the past, parent council has been something very, very important to me. Community engagement, parent engagement. And I've spent a lot of my time sitting and trying to understand Humber River Black Creek and my own particular community. And I'll be honest with you, and I've said this before, when I first came in, I had parent councils that were very, very healthy and then some that were not healthy at all. And I'll never forget sitting there and I had people tell me, this is not the community that engages. You're never going to get parents to come out to meetings. You're never going to get parents to volunteer. You're never going to get parents engaged. And I have to say, it wasn't me alone. Mr. Fiorante, the administrators, the staff, we did it. I went to one of my parent council meetings that had 0 parents 2 years ago and it was standing room only. And that's something that I am so very proud of and we should all be really proud. And it's just going to get better. So somebody once told me that I'm not the type of person that'll scream from a mountaintop. I'm the type of person that'll whisper in the right ear. And that's something that you'll see. I won't go on Twitter and I won't go on social media. But when I want something done in my community, I whisper in Joe's ear and it gets, I'm just joking. I'm not putting it on you.
No less.
One of the most important things though about me is that I'm a mom to 3 boys. They're all part of the TCDSB. And I think that that's all about me. So we'll get to the board because we're not here about me. So Joe told me that I have to have a report, which I will type so I can actually read it next time I'm here. The international language report, which we already spoke about. That was one of the most contentious reports that have come since our new term has started. Access to School Messenger by CSPC. That was passed on consent. So I know a lot of you were discussing that prior term. The revised budget, you know, there's going to be room for discussion with the new budget. We do have a shortfall. And once the final budget comes in, I'm sure that'll it'll be presented to the board. The renewal plan, another very important one was the community engagement policy. We didn't pass that. We've actually deferred it back to CPIC, WAPC, and different stakeholders. And then EQAO and professional learning plans to support student achievement. That's another one that's going to be revised. We're going to be asking questions about that every single student achievement meeting for the next 12 months, I would say. So that'll be like a standing item that one of us will continue to ask inquiries about at every student achievement meeting for the next 12 months. Am I missing anything? I want to say thank you so all for welcoming me. My phone, you all have my phone number, you have my email address, feel free to use it. I'm not very good on social media, so just call me or text me. I usually respond within less than a day. But with social, you have Facebook, you have Twitter, you have Instagram, then you have WhatsApp, and then you have like accounts that you don't even know exist in all of the. So just email me or phone me or text me, and I usually respond fairly quickly. Again, during board meetings, I know a lot of you sometimes have issues that are coming up on reports. You could always send me a quick message, send me an email, because I really appreciate it. So it's not only CPIC members, it's sometimes OAPSI members and a lot of parents from our communities. I'll watch those meetings when there is a report that's contentious and they have questions that they want to ask. Our lines are always open. Okay? Thank you. Was that fast enough, Joe?
Are there any questions of the trustees report? A motion to receive? Gus and Jen. Any opposed? Okay, carry 17 is parent member communication member report. So we do have one from OAPSI Toronto.
Alrighty, interest of time, I'll go really quick. Okay, so our first OAPSI Toronto meeting for the 2022-2023 school year was held on October 25th. It was well attended and we had a special guest, Miguel Martinez, who is the president and founder of MTC Life. He presented to us increasing parent engagement, a proven formula. It was about this three-legged stool, where it was about the mind, the body, the spirit. Just explaining the effects of the pandemic on parents and guardians and our children, and that if one of these is disrupted, the balance is off. The presentation was given to participants and highlighting the roles and responsibilities of OAPSI reps and who we are, what we do, and how we fit into what we do in Toronto and across the province of Ontario. On Monday, November 28th, we had our OAPSI Toronto annual commissioning ceremony for OAPSI liaison representative. We had 12 parent volunteer and 3 principal of excellence award that were handed out.
Did you already mention Jen or no? Did she win the award?
Yes. Yeah, he mentioned that. Jen was one of the recipients of the award and
No, you said vice chair. Didn't say my name.
in interest, I wasn't here for this.
Can't
Yes,
wait.
and 3 principal award. Also, OAPSI hosted a very important webinar in conjunction with the Ontario Catholic School Trustee Association regarding Catholic Virtual Ontario, an option for students to take Catholic courses instead of public courses as part of our mandatory online courses for high school students. Our webinar is on the website at oapsi.org, and parents should view the webinar as it explains these new Catholic courses in details. And our 84th annual OAPSI conference will be held in Kingston, Ontario on April 21st and 24th of 2023. More details to follow. And we're still trying to collect all the OAPSI Toronto representative contact information from the board. We currently only have 65 of 195 schools. And it's very important that we get those contacts so that we can have a two-way communication with our OAPSI representatives. Our next meeting for OAPSI will be January 30th, 2023. And the focus will be on parent engagement strategies and possibly engagements for parents. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalia. Any questions?
Are we invited to that?
I know, Kingston.
Conference in
Yeah, and you know what? CPIC's gonna probably sponsor everybody to go too.
Do we?
Yeah, they
Can we get
got money,
reimbursed?
so
There's gonna be a bus.
Yeah.
might be a bus.
There might be a bus.
There's gonna be
Bus is gonna drive it. I don't know.
someone to move the report, Daniel and Jen. Anyone opposed?
I don't have like a fast getaway, then I can't.
Okay, last item of the night, and it'll be a quicker. So 18A, so update from the board on prior secret Resolutions recommended access to school, sponsored by Catholic School Parent Council. I don't think I figured this one out. And we had issues today creating the addendum, so that's why the addendum part of the agenda is a little bluster. I apologize.
Mr. Chair, this item did not pass. I questioned it, so that means it's going to the next board meeting.
No, this is the, you held the
I
recommendation.
did held this, right, because it was,
17A. This is
I just want to
18A.
make sure that you're fine with this.
Showing the right one. I got it. You know, it's tricky. It's tough sometimes without us recording secretary. I'm figuring it out. In any case, so it's been spoken to by staff, by our trustee. So staff recommendation that the existing practice of our principal send out Catholic school parent messages via school messenger remain in place. Staff and they're basically we're gonna write a protocol to align policy 10 with parent councils to ensure CPCs are able to send messages to parents via the principal in consistent manner of all schools. Now, this is, at the end of the day, this is a conversation we've had at the table for the longest of times. Now, we've heard tonight around the table that we don't spend PIC money, our CPCs don't return emails. At some point, we have to assume across our school board that not all CSPCs, and again, there's CSPCs in the room, there's chairs in the room that will go to their principal and say, email this, and the principal will say, no problem. And I don't speak for all principals, but what this motion moving forward is that when we're putting it into policy, becoming part of S10, it's empowering our CSPCs to go to their principal and say, send something out. Because at the end of the day, and this is something that we have around the table, we bring a parent perspective, right? I hear back sometimes from some of my parents on my school, when we send out school messenger, they'll be like, why was the subject line like that? That didn't make sense. Right? Because someone who was sending out that message, they did it based on what they thought. Right? Now, this is something, and I'll take this, the next point of what I'm gonna make is I'm gonna take it from CFO Putnam. Right? CFO Putnam was at our board, was at our meeting last April, and he'll be at our meeting this April. He'll go over the budget. He'll talk about money and whatnot, disbursement. And the last meeting, he said, equity isn't always found through money, right? Information leads to equity. So what we're looking to, well, I guess this is a start, right? I know this isn't what we wanted, but it's a start, is we want to make sure that all our CSPCs are able to get out information from our perspective, that when it's received at the other end, that parent receiving it will take it as a parent. Because sometimes language impacts communication, how it's put out there and all things of that nature. So now this is going to give, because not every CSPC, like, again, I know around the table, I know the CSPC chairs, and I've spoken to them, and I know how strong the people in this room are. We're a small percentage of the population across our board. So this is gonna help kind of level the playing field so that if communications are getting out there properly, more frequently, or in the eyes of a parent, then the receipt should be better. And it will all lead, again, to that end goal of better student achievements. Okay, questions? None? Crystal clear, good. As engaged, someone to receive the report. Happy? Jen, any opposed?
You have no say.
None, that carries. Nothing on our pending list. Adjournment. So, okay, before I say adjournment, I just want to wish I want to say thank you again to everyone. Great conversations today. Again, look, be patient. The conversations are coming. I know sometimes not everyone gets everything that they want out of the table. We gotta keep moving forward and hopefully we can get everything, but we try to bring the best that we can to this table and keep pushing it forward. And I ask you guys to keep kind of pushing it down as well. If you haven't sent that email, send out, the intro. Again, even as an email, I know that they may not respond, but if you want to remind them about the revitalization fund, right? Just a simple note, right? That's what it is. But at the end of the day, I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Best wishes to all of you. time with your friends and family. I know I'm looking forward to 2 weeks break and kind of take our head off the table and then resting and enjoying. And with that, I will call for adjournment. Oh, but you don't have a vote. This isn't SIAC. Jen and Gab. Anyone opposed? None? Thank you. So we are adjourned. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
And the
Where's my package, Joe?
Yeah, where's
Where's my package?